once more. Through all the upper levels these strange luminaries gleamed, fixed and motionless, hanging unsupported in space. Out from their shining spherical surfaces darted rays of the same pale gold, rigid, unshifting, with the same suggestion of frozen stillness. "They look like big Christmas tree stars," muttered Drake. "They're lights," I answered. "Of course they are. They're not matter, not metal. I mean, there's something about them, like, say, almost fire. Witch lights, condensations of atmospheric electricity." Ventnor's voice was calm. Now that it was plain we were nearing the heart of this mystery in which we were enmeshed, he had clearly taken fresh grip, was again his observant, scientific self. We watched, once more silent. And indeed we had spoken little since we had begun that ride, whose end we sensed close. In the unfolding of enigmatic happening after happening, the mind had deserted speech, and crouched listening at every door of sight and hearing to gather some clue to causes, some thread of understanding. Slowly now we were gliding through the forest of pillars, so effortless, so smooth our flight, that we seemed to be standing still, the tremendous columns flitting past us, turning and wheeling around us, dizzyingly. My head swam with the mirage motion. I closed my eyes. "Look!" Drake was shaking me. "Look! What do you make of that?" Half a mile ahead the pillars stopped at the edge of a shimmering, quivering curtain of green luminescence. High, high up past the pale gilt suns its smooth folds ran, into the golden amber mist that canopied the columns. In its sparkling was more than a hint of the dancing corpuscles of the aurora. It was, indeed, as though woven of the auroral rays, and all about it played shifting, tremulous shadows, formed by the merging of the golden light with the curtain's emerald gleaming. Up to its base swept the cube that bore Ruth and Norhala, and stopped. From it leapt the woman, and drew Ruth down beside her, then turned and gestured toward us. That upon which we rode drew close. I felt it quiver beneath me, felt on the instant the magnetic grip drop from me, angle downward and leave me free. Shakily I arose from aching knees, and saw Ventnor flash down and run, rifle in hand. Drake bent for his gun. I moved unsteadily toward the side of the clustered cubes. There came a curious pushing motion driving me to the edge. Sliding over upon me came Drake and the pony. The cube tilted gently, playfully, and with the slightest of jars the three of us stood beside it on the floor, we two men gaping at it in renewed wonder, and the little beast stretching its legs, lifting its feet and whinnying with relief. Then abruptly the four blocks that had been our steed broke from each other. That which had been the woman's glided to them. The four clicked into place behind it and darted from sight. "Ruth!" Ventnor's voice was vibrant with his fear. "Ruth, what is wrong with you? What has she done to you?" We ran to his side. He stood clutching her hands, searching her eyes. They were wide, unseeing, dream-filled. Upon her face the calm and stillness, which were mirrored reflections of Norhala's unearthly tranquillity, had deepened. "Brother!" The sweet voice seemed far away, drifting out of untroubled space, an echo of Norhala's golden chimings. "Brother, there is nothing wrong with me. Indeed, all is well with me, brother." He dropped the listless palms, faced the woman, tall figure tense, drawn with mingled rage and anguish. "What have you done to her?" he whispered in Norhala's own tongue. Her serene gaze took him in, undisturbed by his anger save for the faintest shadow of wonder, of perplexity. "Done?" she repeated slowly. I have stilled all that was troubled within her, have lifted her above sorrow. I have given her the peace, as I will give it to you if—" "You'll give me nothing," he interrupted fiercely. Then, his passion breaking through all restraint, "Yes, you damned witch, you'll give me back my sister." In his rage he had spoken English. She could not, of course, have understood the words, but their anger and hatred she did understand. Her serenity quivered, broke. The strange stars within her eyes began to glitter forth as they had when she had summoned the smiting thing. Unheeding, Ventnor thrust out a hand, caught her rough by one bare, lovely shoulder. "Give her back to me, I say!" he cried. "Give her back to me!" The woman's eyes grew awful. Out of the distended pupils the strange stars blazed. Upon her face was something of the goddess outraged. I felt the shadow of death's wings. "No! No, Norhala! No, Martin!" The veils of inhuman calm shrouding Ruth were torn. Swiftly the girl we knew looked out from them. She threw herself between the two, arms outstretched. "Ventnor!" Drake caught his arms, held them tight. "That's not the way to save her!" Ventnor stood between us, quivering, half sobbing. Never until then had I realized how great, how absorbing was that love of his for Ruth. And the woman saw it, too, even though dimly envisioned it humanly. For under the shock of human passion, that which I thought then as utterly unknown to her as her cold serenity was to us, the sleeping soul, I use the popular word for those emotional complexes that are peculiar to mankind, stirred, awakened. Wrath fled from her knitted brows. Her eyes, dropping to the girl, lost their dreadfulness, softened. She turned them upon Ventnor. They brooded upon him. Within their depths a half-troubled interest, a questioning. A smile dawned upon the exquisite face, humanizing it, transfiguring it, touching with tenderness the sweet and sleeping mouth, as a hovering dream the lips of the slumbering maid. And on the face of Ruth, as upon a mirror, I watched that same slow understanding tenderness reflected. "Come," said Norhala, and led the way through the sparkling curtains. As she passed, an arm around Ruth's neck, I saw the marks of Ventnor's fingers upon her white shoulder, staining its purity, marring it like a blasphemy. For an instant I hung behind, watching their fingers grow misty within the shining shadows, then followed hastily. Entering the mists, I was conscious of a pleasant tingling, an acceleration of the pulse, an increase of that sense of well-being which, I grew suddenly aware, had since the beginning of our strange journey minimized the nervous attrition of constant contact with the abnormal. Striving to clarify, to reduce to order, my sensations, I drew close to the others, overtaking them in a dozen paces more, and we stepped out of the curtainings. End of chapter 10.